Should social networking sites be held liable for any entity that uses their service to stage a violent protest that could result in the loss of life? There are many reasons why a social site should not be held liable for what their users do. These sites already use their power to censor individuals who make threats against peace. They have done so in the past, and they are not afraid to do so now. However, these websites are also used as ways to speak out and voice one's opinions. Due to this, if a social networking site chooses not to delete a post, the attention should not go directly to the site, but it should go instead to the user who is exercising their freedom of speech. With the introduction of social media into society, there have been a lot of additions made to laws regarding the freedom of speech in an online environment. Not only this, but there has also been a lot of changes to how people can exercise their other freedoms too. One major example of this is the right to protest. Social media has drastically changed the way people protest in almost every aspect. It has increased the number of people that are made aware of these events occurring. The way these protests are organized has become much more efficient, and has even allowed protests to occur digitally. While many people know what protest is, that does not necessarily mean that every single person knows why the ability to protest is important. Protests have occurred regularly throughout history. If there is a differing opinion among people in society and those who represent or lead them, then there is likely to be a protest. However, when that ability to protest is taken away, many terrible consequences can follow. The biggest example of this is the Holocaust. From the start of Hitler's dictatorship, a citizen speaking out about their leader's actions would lead to horrible repercussions. Now imagine if a group of citizens gathered together in an attempt to protest. Needless to say, it would not bode well for any of the individuals involved. However, when that right to protest is protected, a lot of good can come from the efforts of citizens. Many different forms of speech exist, and while most are protected, not all of them should be. A threat to public safety and speech that infringes upon another person's rights are both examples of forms that are not protected. In social media, posts and comments are monitored for these types of speech. Social media platforms can monitor for these violent comments and posts in many ways. In fact, most sites actually use multiple different methods to patrol their content. One of these choices that's popular among smaller sites is to hire a moderator. However, using a moderator for larger sites is not effective, as the larger sites are just simply too big for a moderator to look through every single post or comment. Once one of these posts is found, there are many ways to determine if it is actually indicative of violence, and one of the most popular is running an algorithm. This method was widely used by YouTube, and there have been many instances in which the site took down or removed a video because it displayed violence. However, most sites don't just use one tool, but they also use another in conjunction with algorithms. When a social networking site comes across dangerous speech, many different actions can occur. But before any post or comment can be made, a user must agree to a code of conduct or terms of service when they join the platform. They use these forms to discourage the posting of content that promotes violence. In most cases, though, this is not enough to keep the post from surfacing, and as a result, the social networking site can actually delete posts that violate their established rules. If someone were to make a post about an upcoming protest and makes threats of violence, the social media site has every right to delete the post, as it was against their terms of service or code of conduct. The freedom of speech protects a citizen's right to freely express their thoughts. However, just like how a site can delete a threatening post, speech can also be censored as well. And while these comments are not protected, there are many scenarios in which it can be. Established laws help protect the rights of citizens, and it is not just the First Amendment as one of these legislation. There are actually many laws that are designed specifically for online use. A few examples include the Communications Decency Act, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, and the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. However, when an online post is not deleted by the social site, there are also other third parties that are looking online. One such third party is law enforcement. With how many users exist across all social media sites, it would be reasonable to believe that at least one user belongs to a law enforcement agency. In fact, not only does at least one user exist, but there are also records of some agencies even using social media with the intent of stopping crimes before they happen. According to an article published in 2013 by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, 88% of agencies in the US reported using social media. That was 7 years ago, so imagine the increase in that number. This shows how much social media has truly impacted not only law enforcement, but the lives of the citizens as well. When an action is taken against an online post, there will be questions as to whether or not the action was legal. In most cases, the deletion of a post is completely legal as it had violated the service's terms that they have established for their users. As previously mentioned, freedom of speech is not applied to threats or anything that infringes upon another person's rights. So if someone makes a threat to another person's safety, then action can be taken against the individual. Even if there is no follow-through on the threat, there is always the chance that it could happen. This is why many social media sites use a variety of methods to find and remove those threats and other dangerous posts or comments from their platform. In the end, social networking platforms should not be held liable for the actions of their users. Not only do these sites monitor their content, but they also take action against any posts or comments that violate their terms, or that break any laws. Law enforcement agencies also use these services to try and prevent a crime before it even happens. And with all the steps that social media takes to try and prevent violence, why should these sites be held accountable for something they fought against?